Rightio. Last video I said I was going to talk about the 112 off the top, my biggest one off the top. Also talk a little bit about the journey to getting to that fish. I suppose I'd say it was early 2000, it was late 2006. Really just getting into lure fishing back then. I was actually trying to get my first cod on a spinnerbait. I'd been flicking them around for nearly 12 months. I'd caught one yeller. We'd read a few articles, we'd watched a couple of videos, DVDs were coming out, how to do it, hadn't actually caught it. And the biggest teacher you will get is the fish themselves. I'm struggling to get a fish. A mate rings me up and he goes, I've got this spot. This is between Christmas and New Year's. I've got this spot. You will get your first fish on a spinnerbait up there, guaranteed. Even though I didn't really believe him, I thought, yeah, I'll go and have a look. Get up there late that night. Next morning he goes, first we'll throw surface lures. And these were the surface lures. I think it took, I don't know, something like 7 or 8 casts and got me first fish on the surface. Wasn't even thinking about surface fishing. And then I went back to what my goal was, to get me first one on a spinnerbait. Took me all day. I think cast from daybreak till about 2 o'clock, or not all day, about 2 o'clock I actually finally managed to get one. And pretty much doing the same as the surface. When I say the fish are your greatest teacher, the mate said you got to put it in there, put it in there. People can tell you all this stuff and it's all going in and you're trying to put it to work. It's not until the first fish actually grabs your lure that it sinks in. Has just taught you, this is where I am, this is what you need to keep doing, which can kind of make you one track mind too, right? These where the fish are, and I took that, spinnerbait wise, I took that to other waters and it worked. Surface lure wise, I also took it to other waters. This particular spot, we kept going back there. My best day, between us, we got 30 cod on the surface on these little lures. We went, upgraded a bit bigger to the jitterbug. Then later on we upgraded again to these, which we did not have a lot of luck with them. I think there's a kingfisher, like a timber jointed one. That was a huge surface lure. For us, that was like a big surface lure. Over the years, surface luring after that was, even though this particular spot, we caught them all day, overcast days all day. Some days you wouldn't get one on the surface until the sun come up, like it was all asked about to what we'd actually been told. I know the guys had a day there, they said they caught like nearly 70 cod on surface over the whole day. Granted, the fish weren't real big, it was a stocked bit of waterway. The fishing club up there had just put everything they'd made from their fishing comps into throwing fish in the water. It was magic, great spot to take kids, great spot for anyone learning how to surface fish. So I've taken the spinnerbaits, surface lures, whatever, mainly spinnerbaits. I was mad on spinnerbaits. When we first started catching them, everyone's doing it now. When we first started using spinnerbaits around here, we could go probably every 50 metres we would find a lure, a hard body trawled lure on the bank. There's one, they were everywhere because no one was using spinnerbaits. They were hard work in the current. I'd even had arguments with people before I caught one that you cannot catch them on spinnerbaits in the current. Proven wrong later on. But yeah, we'd find, I don't know, half my tackle box was filled up with hard body lures that we found on the bank because no one was casting spinnerbaits. Now you hardly find a hard body on the bank because everyone's casting spinnerbaits or surface lures, everyone's seeing them. But anyway, so casting spinnerbaits was my main deal. There was days where I'd cast out a spinnerbait, let it sink, and it'd be like, I don't know, couple of seconds, it'd be like 10 seconds, and you'd see a fish come all the way to the surface inside that ring this is in the early days too, and it was a lot easier than what it is now. You'd see a fish come to that surface and have a look around that ring where the spinnerbait is probably already a metre under the fish. The fish has missed it, it's just looking at the surface all day. Come up there, looking for whatever's on the surface, even though the spinnerbait's dropped under. So always had a always had a surface lure in the box for them days when you'd see that. I didn't, specifically go out chasing surface all day. But days when you'd see that happen, you would, flick a surface lure around for a while, catch them occasionally. Hard bodies, flicking hard bodies, a lot of times, especially flicking these orgy plows. I don't know how many times I've had one of them smashed off the surface, cast right beside the perfect spot, bang, the fish has just taken them. So that really made me start casting the surface every day. You start your first couple of hours on the surface, or first hour on the surface. Hard bodies too, like the fish are up on the snag, but now, it's surface crazy time. Started targeting them every morning. That was the first thing I tried. Didn't always work, don't always get them on the surface. But yeah, we started looking for bigger lures. My next biggest surface lure was, I think, 120 Muldoon's Big Willie Popper. Haven't got it anymore. I swapped it for, only last year, I swapped it for some vintage stumpies, I reckon. But then these came out. This is the first cod, Coolabung cod walker. I think she's only a 75 mil. That's pretty much what I was used to. Easy to cast off your standard, your 8 kilo fishing rod. Cast these all day, even on a 4 kilo fishing rod. I've actually got a bit of footage of a cod nearly 90 centimetres doing the same thing, casting in the crack near the bank before I started casting out wide. On one of these, I'll put that up. These came out. This is a good size, you can still cast them on your standard rod. They'd be under an ounce. Bigger profile. Started smashing some good fish close to home on this, and you can cast them all day easy. I went to, and then you start, you just start getting bigger. The fish are getting bigger. Surface lure's getting bigger. The fish are getting bigger. Went to the cod cracker. This thing here's nailed some good fish. Dropped some good fish, because that's the nature of surface fishing. Even on a little Helco, we got the day we got 30, we probably had 90 encounters of fish. Some of them the same fish. The day we got 30, 90 fish had a go. The hookup rate was like only 1/3 of them you hook up. Same with surface luring. That's why we started. I haven't had split rings to this, but started looking for sharper trebles, more split rings, just trying to increase this hookup rate. But that's just the nature of surface luring. Hookup rate ain't so good. From there, went to this big banger. You need a dedicated fishing rod to start casting these. This is a 120 mil Coolabung wake walker, and she's caught some good fish. This banger, my favourite lure, and I fell in love with these. And really, this is a wake snake, so it's it's not a paddler. It's a more subtle lure. Instead of the paddle and all the noise, and I know a lot of people don't use these, don't like them, but in hard hit water where the fish have seen a lot of paddling lures now, these are actually, they're a more subtle presence and probably more natural. If you're sneaking around by yourself in hard hit water, even just before the lockdown, I've hit the paddler and a few good looking snags. Thought, I'll put on this wake snake, it's not making the paddle, it's a bit, see what happens. I had a fish swim out, like I'd already hit the snag probably 5 times with a paddler. I thought, I'll chuck this wake snake out there, and it does look like a snake. Cruising along, and I've watched this fish over a metre swim out. He's just got his nose underneath the lure, looking at it, He's done a big figure 8, come back and had another look and went back to his snag. I think about 3 casts later he did the same thing. He didn't take the lure, but the paddler, he was onto that. That's probably why he didn't take this, because he was, you know, sassing onto it. If I'd have thrown this in first, I reckon I would have had him. But the, you know, just a subtle, something a little bit different. And these people go crook, they don't know how to use them. In the current, in the lakes, you know, slow retrieve, but in the lakes, they'll swim any way you throw them out of the boat. These, not so much. You've got to probably throw them up into the current and let them come back into the current with you. Guys are trying to bring them against the current. You know, you really can't even go slow enough. They'll actually dive a little bit, or they might blow out. Throw them into the current, they'll swim at the right speed back to the boat for you every single time. As you've seen from the first video I put up, the fish we dropped, I could probably show you a dozen videos of good fish dropped. You know, probably more my fault than anything, not driving the hooks into them. I was talking to a mate, Rod McKenzie it was. He was over at Trellies, went in there. I think I wanted to buy some trebles actually. I thought, oh, Rod and Glenn are over there. I'll have a quick yak to the boys one Saturday morning. Rod had seen the footage of me dropping a fish that I'd put on Facebook, you know, just weeks earlier. And he goes, I notice you're not striking as the fish strike.
Where's this fucking net? Turn this off. Oh,
He said to me, if the fish misses it, the lure's coming back to the boat. That's how hard he's striking. The very next trip out, keen as, I've got all the good oil off Rod, you know, strike when they strike. Left the boat ramp, gone to a snag that's always produced. I pulled one, I put the video up, of about 75 centimetres, and that was it. Set it out, fish strike, fish hit the lure, I struck, bang, nailed the fish. Cool. Cruise up the river, I've hit a heap of snags, you know, probably only a bend really. I've come around the corner, I've cast a bend that I've caught a lot of fish on spinnerbaits and surface lures, but only smaller fish. Come around the bend, I've cast this, you know, perfect snag there, and this big brush pile of crap. And I've already hit that snag. I'm heading to the other snag, just in between a bit of fill, you know, cast this brush pile in the middle with the wake snake up into the current, slowly bringing it back. As the lure is nearly back to the boat, I see this giant cod, probably halfway between the boat and the brush pile, turn around, and he's slowly swimming back to the brush pile. Straight away, I've got it on the video, cast her out there, just in front of him. I probably cast 2 metres in front of his head because I could still see him. You can't see it on the video, unfortunately, but I could see this fish. You'll see me adjust me feet, ready for it. Absolutely crapping me dacks because I could see how big this fish was. Flicked it out in front of him, 2 metres in front of him. Slowly wound it back. He's nailed it. Off struck. Still, you'll hear me go, please don't get off, please don't get off, because you know this fish is I've lost that many fish by not setting the hook. Lost them at the net. Lost them everywhere. Only a couple of weeks before I've turned the electric motor off, lure flew out of the mouth. You know, I didn't even want to turn the electric motor off. I was just in, you know, 2 minds of what to do. Had to do it because the current was so strong. When I looked at the photo later on, if I didn't strike that fish, I would have lost that fish because he's got 2 trebles in top of his head. These needle sharp mustard trebles that Rod's handed me. You know, the magic trebles, get out as soon as I've talked to him, nailed 2 fish on the very next trip. But yeah, if I didn't strike like he said, it would have been just another hit lure and another lost fish, which I had so many before. After that, you know, that's the secret now. I strike every time. Still, you do not, it's just the nature of surface luring. You do not get every fish, but it's definitely upped my catch rate by striking when the fish strike. So talking about subtle approaches, next week I'm going to do my take on swim baits. I don't fish them, I don't fish them how the guys do in the dams. I've pretty much how these fish have taught me what they're doing, how guys have told me, or I've read how to do it. When the fish connects is when it sinks into your head. And so I've actually put that subtle approach to swim baits, and next week, even though I haven't used them a lot, how I've crossed over from surface lures to swim baits, is I'll tell you about that, and it's worth a treat really. So anyway, till next time. This one's probably going to be a bit long-winded. I'll try and put heaps of photos instead of looking at my ugly mug. Heaps of photos and heaps of footage while this video's going. Cheers.